The Nicomachean Ethics of Aristotle.
Read and presented by George Pitropogiannakis.
Book 5, Chapter 10.
Again, since a man may do unjust acts and not yet have formed a character of injustice, the question arises whether a man is unjust in each particular form of injustice. Say, a thief, or adulterer, or robber, by doing acts of a given character. We may say, I think, that this will not of itself make any difference. A man may, for instance, have had connection with another's wife, knowing well with whom he was sinning, but he may have done it not of deliberate choice, but from the impulse of passion. Of course, he acts unjustly, but he has not necessarily formed an unjust character. That is, he may have stolen, yet not be a thief, or committed an act of adultery, but still not be an adulterer, and so on in other cases which might be enumerated. Of the relation which reciprocation bears to the just, we have already spoken. And here it should be noticed that the just which we are investigating is both the just in the abstract and also as exhibited in social relations, which latter arises in the case of those who live in communion with a view to independence and who are free and equal either proportionately or numerically. It follows then that those who are not in this position have not among themselves the social just, but still just of some kind and resembling that other. For just implies mutually acknowledged law, and law the possibility of injustice. For adjudication is the act of distinguishing between the just and the unjust. And among whomsoever there is the possibility of injustice among these, there is that of acting unjustly. But it does not hold conversely that injustice attaches to all among whom there is the possibility of acting unjustly, since by the former we mean giving oneself the larger share of what is abstractedly good and the less of what is abstractedly evil. This, by the way, is the reason why we do not allow a man to govern, but principle, because a man governs for himself and comes to be a despot. But the office of a ruler is to be guardian of the just, and therefore of the equal. Well then, since he seems to have no peculiar personal advantage, supposing him a just man, for in this case he does not allow to himself the larger share of what is abstractedly good, unless it falls to his share proportionately, for which reason he really governs for others. And so justice, men say, is a good not to oneself so much as to others, as was mentioned before. Therefore, some compensation must be given him, as there actually is, in the shape of honor and privilege. And wherever these are not adequate, their rulers turn into despots. But the just, which arises in the relations of master and father, is not identical with, but similar to these, because there is no possibility of injustice towards those things, which are absolutely one's own, and a slave or child, so long as this last is of a certain age and not separated into an independent being, is, as it were, part of a man's self, and no man chooses to hurt himself, for which reason There cannot be injustice towards one's own self. Therefore, neither is there the social unjust or just, which was stated to be in accordance with law, and to exist between those among whom law naturally exists, and these were said to be they to whom belongs equality of ruling and being ruled. Hence there is just rather between a man and his wife, than between a man and his children or slaves. This is in fact the just arising in domestic relations. And this too is different from the social just. Further, this last mentioned just is of two kinds, natural and conventional. The former being that which has everywhere the same force, and does not depend upon being received or not. The latter being that which originally may be this way or that indifferently, but not after enactment. For instance, the price of ransom being fixed at a mina, or the sacrificing a goat instead of 2 sheep. And again, all cases of special enactment, as the sacrificing to Brasidas as a hero. In short, all matters of special decree. But there are some men who think that all the just are of this latter kind, and on this ground, whatever exists by nature, they say, is unchangeable, and has everywhere the same force. Fire, for instance, burns not here only, but in Persia as well. But the just, they see, changed in various places. Now, this is not really so, and yet it is in a way, though among the gods, perhaps by no means. Still, even amongst ourselves, there is somewhat existing by nature, allowing that everything is subject to change. Still there is that which does exist by nature, and that which does not. Nay, we may go further and say that it is practically plain. What among things which can be otherwise does exist by nature, and what does not, but is dependent upon enactment and conventional, even granting that both are alike subject to be changed. And the same distinctive illustration will apply to this and other cases. The right hand is naturally the stronger. Still, some men may become equally strong in both. A parallel may be drawn between the just, which depend upon convention, and expedients and measures. For wine and corn measures are not equal in all places, but where men buy they are large, and where the same sell again they are smaller. Well, in like manner, the just which are not natural, but of human invention, are not everywhere the same, for not even the forms of government are, and yet there is one only, which by nature would be best in all places.